All right. Looks like everything is set ready to go on Twitter and Facebook. Q. YouTube is ready to go. So here we go with this countdown in five, four, three, two, and one. What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining us here on the Welcome Home Podcast. I'm your host, Famously Garnet, and joined by my co-host Q.
What it do, y'all? What it do?
And in today's episode, we brought the man, the myth, the legend. We brought in Shane Beamer from the University of South Carolina. Welcome to the show, Coach. It's been a long time coming.
Well, appreciate you guys for having me on and fired up to visit with you today.
Awesome,
man.
coach. Awesome, coach. And to get right into it, coach, all of us are from the state of South Carolina. You were born in Charleston. Me and FG were both born in Columbia. So you're a hometown guy. And so, as you know, Carolina is a Carolina pride type situation. Everybody really has that pride when you're from the state of South Carolina. How has that helped you, coach, when it comes down to, hey, I'm a coach at the flagship university here? What has that done for you as far as your career is concerned and as far as you being the head coach at the Gamecocks?
Yeah, great point. I mean, I saw that early on. I remember growing up, and my dad obviously was the head coach at Virginia Tech. He used to always talk about South Carolina because he used to coach at the Citadel. That's how I was born in Charleston. My dad was coaching at the Citadel. And as long as I can remember, my dad's always talked about the University of South Carolina, the fan base. It's the University of South Carolina. And that always resonated with me. And then I was here as an assistant in 2007, 8, 9, and 10. I saw it up close and personal. Now being back as the head coach, it's awesome. You know, you're in a state, and I've talked about this a lot. There's no pro sports in South Carolina. So for us, you know, we're in the middle of the state, the capital city, the show in town. So it's awesome being in that role. It's a huge responsibility that I don't take lightly because I know how many people live and die with the Gamecocks, and I love that aspect of my job and wouldn't want it any other way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So go ahead, FG.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I remember, Shane, after you beat Virginia Tech last year in Atlanta, I was at that game, and Q was also at that game, and just see the pure emotion what that meant for South Carolina. Like, hey, this was about winning for not just University of South Carolina, but the state of South Carolina. From you being there, so that was truly amazing. And Coach, obviously, the season that we just had, a lot of people they like to bring that up without bringing the facts to the table. And the facts to the table is the offseason work that you guys put in this past offseason, whether it be personnel and then also bringing players from in the portal, which it's funny to me, Coach, we've seen the similarities there from what happened in 2023 to what you brought in 2024. So expand more about that, Coach, about this leadership that you brought in, maybe this more seniority about what we're seeing that you brought in this offseason from the player standpoint, at least.
Yeah, I just think in today's college athletics, college football, last week in Tampa at Media Day, the best teams are the oldest teams. And um, you better have leadership. A lot of guys that are invested in the program, been around the program for a while. And we've got both. A lot of guys that have been a part of this program now for a while. The three guys who took the Tampa last week, Peyton, Nick, and Lenoris, and all three of those guys have been in our program here for 5 years, which is very rare in college athletics nowadays. So that's a huge part of it. We're old, we have more leadership, and knew we needed to. And not that we had bad leadership last year, because I don't feel like we did. The fact of the matter is we didn't have a lot of seniors that started this. And I think if you look at it, I think it was 4 seniors that started in the team last year. And that's hard. So we've definitely gotten older. We've got more seniors that will play meaningful snaps for us this year. And they've had a good offseason and eager to get started in practice next week.
For sure, coach. That's a valid point. And looking at that team, as you know, coach, even going back to the 2024 season itself, we hit adversity a couple of times. The biggest one I felt like was that Missouri game. I mean, Missouri scored super late in that game. And as you know, coach, sometimes people fold in that situation. But then we get that drive going, and next thing you know, the decibel meter in that stadium, as soon as Rocket hit that end zone, I mean, it hasn't been that loud in a very, very long time. So it was good to see that. So that brings us to my next point, coach. You're a head coach, but one of the biggest principles you've always taught is also being a man. You're above all a husband, which I can relate to now. I just got married in February. Shout out to my wife. So I know that strong feeling. It's just a new feeling for me, and it changes your life. And then you're also a father. And so with how things work today, everybody wants wins. Everybody loves wins. But at the same time, you see Hunter with all those smiles on his faces on the sideline when he gets to come up to you, and your daughters get to come up to you, and your wife Emily gets to come up to you all those times. And the singing, I mean, Coach, that went worldwide when you did your song, Coach. When I tell you, I'm talking about, people kept hearing like, dude, that your coach is like that. I was like, dude, that's Shane. But how do you balance all that? How do you balance that? Because you do have to still show up, win or loss, as a father, as a husband. So how are you able to balance that?
Yeah, great question. Congrats on getting married too. That's awesome.
Thank you, man.
For you. It's tough. A couple of things. I mean, one, I'm very blessed. I'm in a position that I'm able to include my family in it in so many ways. That not just my family, but all the families of all of our coaches. I mean, they're in our facility all the time. They're at practice, games, things like that. So that's helpful to be able to do that. But it's hard because, we say we lose the game, there's 100 players I'm worried about. There's 100 coaches, staff that I'm responsible for and I'm worried about. But then also I have a family that I'm worried about. And, we can lose the game and I can come back in this facility on Sunday morning and go right back to work and kind of bury myself from the outside noise. My wife and kids don't have that luxury. They got to go back to school on Monday or, in the grocery store or whatever it might be. So, I worry about them from that standpoint after tough losses. But it is what it is. So for me, I try to be present. There's a lot of demands of this job, sacrifices that I have to make because of it. They understand that. I'm very blessed that they do understand that. But at the same time, when I am at home, you got to be good about schedule and being present for them. I'm at home. I'm an old school paper calendar.
There you go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm on that one. I'm not on the phone and all that. I'm an old school, writing it on paper. So whenever there's any kind of kids activity or whatever it might be, I make sure I put it down on the calendar where if I can just schedule around it so I don't miss things as a dad or a husband. I do. I was doing that with my daughters this morning. Had those where they sent me their schedules for the fall for the different sports they're playing at school and things like that. So, be able to sneak out of this if I have to for 30 minutes just to go be a dad. Because you only get one chance to, definitely get one chance to be a husband. Better on one chance. And then surely I'll get one chance to be a dad. So make sure I'm, the best of all those and coach.
Man, that's dope. That's dope, Coach. That's dope.
That is awesome. And being from you being a husband, man, you just gave your wife the news when she won Humanitarian Award of the Year for the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. That thankfully Mike Foster has had me out there covering the last few years, and he always puts on a great event out there for that. What was it like for you, Coach, to give that news to her when she won that award, man?
Yeah, that was really cool. Thanks for bringing that up. We were, in our house in Columbia and had the conversation with her and telling her about this award and guess who won it. And I thought she was going to think it was my dad that she thought won it. She thought I was reading all this stuff about me because I was it. And I'm like, no. I'm wrong on both of us. Like you. So that was pretty cool because it was awesome. Somebody was able to, recognize all she does. I got it. I mean, she's the star of our family with, everything, responsibility she has, dealing with 3 kids and a dog and all the issues that come with that. She's amazing, allows me to do what I love to do, and is my best friend throughout everything. So to see her be on there is really, really special, and she's been to plenty of things for me and has always been there for me. So really need to be able to be at that event tonight for her. It was very much proud of that night.
For sure.
Awesome.
That was good. So, Coach, one of the questions I wanted to ask is, we know the struggles offensive line has had, over these past few years, 40 plus sacks given up last year, 30 plus the year before that. And so this year you really took the steps like, hey, I want to make sure we revamp this offensive line to give Sellers the time he needs. And you went with Clemens. And so 2023, we play him when he's with North Carolina, and we're on the opposite side. And I remember analysts were talking about how, I wonder how this defensive line or this offensive line is going to hold up against his defensive line that South Carolina is bringing into the game, because we were coming off of an 8-5 season. We were riding high. And I remember distinctly, because I was at that game, both me and FG were at that game, and I remember how disciplined his offensive line was. Was that something that stood out to you, Coach, when it came to looking at offensive line coaches and when his name popped up? Was that something you saw as not just how disciplined they are, but how he has his offensive lines ready week in and week out?
Yeah. That with that game being a season opener, we had all year to get ready for them. So I'm watching 3 North Carolina games from the year before, and all you see is, Omari Hampton and what a running back he is up and down the field. And I'm like, God, hey. And then really for me, it was, you watch that, like, well, they're really good up front. And then seeing them up close and personal that night, certainly. I didn't know them at all, knew the name, just knowing coaches throughout the profession. I started talking to Kendall. We started talking to potential staff members, and he brought up Randy Clements. I immediately knew who Randy Clements was. And like any hire I'm going to make, I'm going to call people that I trust to get their opinion on the guy. And I remember calling Mack Brown, and what Mack Brown said about him really was impactful and resonated. So he's got a track record. He's done it in multiple schools and coaches them hard and bringing the mentality we want. And you're right. We weren't even good enough. That starts with me. There's no question about it. I thought we had turned the corner, and after the 24 season, from a run game protection standpoint, we just didn't progress. We needed to win 25, and it's not all the offensive line. I'm looking forward. It's coaching, it's the quarterback, the running back, the receiver, it's the tight end, it's the offensive lineman, it's everybody. But at the end of the day, we haven't run the ball consistently enough. 5 years as a head coach, and we haven't protected the quarterback consistently enough. So we got to be better there, and confident we will be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And another thing I wanted to follow up with that, Coach, when you look at the stats where he's been as well, I think that was another main thing I think a lot of people are missing when it comes to the offensive line is what Randy Clements has done where he's been. I looked at his numbers, Coach, everywhere he's been, they've at least averaged over 30 points a game. They've averaged over 200 something yards on the ground. And so, and in Kendall Brow's system, establishing a run game, to open up the passing lanes is essential. So when you saw that, I thought that was huge, Coach. I thought that was huge, and I'm pretty sure that's something that you saw, and you were like, "Hey, this makes sense." And I think, honestly, Coach, I look back for the first time in a very, very long time, we have an offensive line coach that an offensive coordinator they've worked together before. That's the first time, and I think that's a huge thing.
No, it is. They've got a great relationship. They go back a lot of years, they go back decades together. And you're right about Slim. He's just consistent year in, year out. Knock on wood. I'm sure that'll continue. But the fact that those guys have been together is huge. In my first couple of years, we had Marcus Satterfield, Greg Atkins, and Lonnie Teasley all in these roles one time, and Sat and Teasley and Sat and Atkins had worked together before, never specifically in that coordinator offensive line role. And then 23 and 24 coordinator offensive line coach hadn't worked together before. 25, they hadn't been in those exact roles together before. So I think it's really powerful to have a offensive coordinator and an offensive line coach that have worked together before, but not only worked together in the specific roles that they're in right now. So not that it can't be done. Seeing coordinators and line coaches that haven't worked together, it worked. But it's certainly an advantage to have experience with those guys out together because Kendall knows what Clem wants, knows what Kendall wants, and we can all speak the same language too.
Yes, sir.
Very, very good. And speaking of keeping it on the subject about Kendall Briles, him and Norris, we've heard there's been a lot of work in this offseason, a lot of progression. Shane, can you talk more about the growth that you've seen from Lenoris personally in this offseason, working with Kendall in the system that he's got going?
Yeah, certainly Lenoris knows what a big year it is for him for, his time here in South Carolina, future after South Carolina, all that stuff. So he knew everybody in this program needed to be better in 6. So Lenoris hit the ground from that standpoint, regardless of who the coordinator was going to be. But it's even better because of the relationship that those two guys have come in and developed. They really got a great rapport with one another. I think Lenoris is in a really good spot right now, physically and mentally. And that goes back to the, work that he and Kendall would put in the offseason and the relationship that those two guys have developed. Yeah, they're continuing to grow together and get better. Fired to see what it looks like here when we kick it off in September.
Big facts. Now the next guy I want to talk about is a guy you do have a strong relationship with, and that's Stan Drayton. Y'all relationship go back decades as well. And with the running backs that Stan has coached, I understand the trust factor with him because you knew him. But Coach, what made you ultimately pull the trigger? I know he's coached Bijan Robinson. And when you looked at the running back room, how he was able to flip that room, not just, come in and be the coach of that room, but flip that room into the way it is today. What gave you like, hey, this is the time to get Stan here. This is the time to revamp it because, his resume, it speaks for itself.
Yeah. That wasn't a hard thought process. That one was pretty easy that, Stan was somebody I wanted to get in here and coach the running back position. We go way back, like you said, to 2004. We were both time coaches in the SEC at Mississippi State. And he was young. I hadn't even met him when I first got to Mississippi State. Technically, I won't Stan long from my office. We've been there 20 years now. But I know what kind of person Stan is. I know what kind of coach he is. I know what kind of recruiter he is. So when you just look at Stan Drayton and think about his resume and, the coaches that he's worked for, the places that he's worked, NFL and college, the family that he is, recruiter, exposure to different systems. He's been a head coach, which I think is awesome because he's, the chair that I was in, you think you know what it's like until you're actually in this chair. You don't know. So to have somebody else in the building that's been a head coach is huge to be able to, pick his brain on things. So that was an easy decision for me to bring him in. And fortunate, we had other schools that know the same things or knew the same things about Stan that I know that would try to hire him too. And I'm grateful that he chose to be here. He's been awesome, great staff, a great, coach. He's made that running back room better. Eager to see him continue to put his input in that running back room and our program. And then, like you look at the offenses that he's been around. He's been around a lot of high-powered offenses and different systems that use a similar system and had similar personnel to what we're doing here, at Carolina right now. I was coaching running backs at Mississippi State for 1 year, and then I coached running backs at Virginia Tech. When I was coaching running backs at Virginia Tech, it was 1 year I'm in Chicago. Stan was working for the Bears, and I flew to Chicago and spent a day there and just kind of picked up his brain on running back play too. So it's somebody that I'm really respectful and glad to have him here in the Fox Eagles.
That's awesome. And I'll say this about Stan Drayton. I had the opportunity to be in Mobile in the Senior Bowl around his running backs that were in there, Singleton and the other guys, and it's like they spoke highly about him. They're like, "Look, Stan was phenomenal."
Yeah.
And to keep it to around the same thing with when it comes to coaches at Penn State, Deion Barnes, right? Deion Barnes came in quick, has a strong resume. We don't have to talk too much about it. Abdul Carter, right? Chop Robinson, guys like that. And It's the same thing. Dennis Sutton was out there in Mobile, out there for Penn State. Spoke highly about Deion Barnes. Coach, bringing a guy like him, looking at his development and his factors there, uh, how big of a no-brainer was it for you when you're able to, hey, I'm going to bring him in to make my replacement at that position?
Yeah, that was another one that really didn't take long. Um, didn't anticipate having an opening, but once we did, Clayton and I wanted to move quick on that one without a doubt for a lot of reasons. And it was an attractive position to a lot of people to, one, come to South Carolina, but two, to have the opportunity to coach a guy like Dave Stewart. And, um, you know, when that first happened, that first morning, Clayton and I talked. I had some guys I was interested in reaching out to. He had some guys he wanted to reach out to. So we said, you know what, let's kind of take the morning and then we'll connect here in a few hours and kind of update, see where we are, what the next steps are. I was in Florida and he was somewhere else. We talked that day and talked about some names, and he brought up, Deion Barnes from Penn State's interested, and I didn't know Deion, but I knew of Deion because of who he's coached. Deion is a player, Penn State, and players, they've produced at that position. So that was somebody as soon as Clinton said he was interested, I was like, well, you get on the phone with him, Zoom, talk, whatever. We did all over the next 24 hours. And he's the person we offered the job to, and thankfully he accepted. And he and Dylan hit it off immediately, which was awesome. He and all the other agents hit it off immediately. He's worked his butt off in recruiting. He's got a great relationships with prospects from that standpoint. And to me, it's kind of scratching the surface of what he's going to be able to do. He's made that room better already. And Dylan Sport, the other guys in that room, didn't think that Julian Walker coming here as a high school recruit, if they didn't Deion Barnes make better, they wouldn't find him and they would have, transferred him. They did, to me, said everything.
Yeah, coach. And another thing I looked at, kind of dissecting what we have this year, special teams. I mean, I know Beamer ball, you know as well as I do, coach. That's known worldwide. And so something I know that I've seen frustrated you a lot last season is we're not executing on that actual aspect of special teams and the level we are used to and the expectations are. And so I know going into this year, one of the biggest things you did, coach, you brought in some kickers and you were like, hey, we're going to have a competition. Like I want to make sure we have the right guys so we're ready for, what comes this year. Because as you know, in 2024, coach, we're a couple kicks away from college football playoff. And so how has that competition been and how have you seen the special teams grow this year? Now we're going into the 2026 season with that special teams being, once again, one of the biggest impacts because, coach, we've had one of the top special team units since you've been here. So I know, we've taken a step back, but now, I know we want to get back to where we were before.
Yeah, we're in a position we were a year ago. Remember a year ago, one of my biggest concerns, nobody was talking about it, and I was scared, what was, we had to replace our punter, kicker, long snapper, holder, punt returner, and kickoff returner from the year before.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, I don't think I've done that in all my years of coaching. And we did a good job. Mason came in, punter, Mason Love, and did a great job. We go into 26. We got a great punter in Mason. We've got a dangerous punt returner in Bakari. We've shown that, Nick Harvey and Jaquel can return kickoffs and be a weapon back there. Got to figure out what a snapping place kicking situation is. But I feel better now than we did a year ago, just because we got some guys back. But there's no question we need to execute better. We did some good things last year. We also had some, critical errors in some games too, from a special team standpoint. Obviously, the punt return against Virginia Tech was a huge play in that game, but we had some, critical plays that cost us some games too. So we just got to be more consistent there. We've got more depth overall as a team. I feel like we will show on special teams with the depth we have now. And then Matthew Smiley come in as a special teams coach. And, brought some new eyes. I'm close involved in that aspect of the football team on special teams, and will continue to be. So, that needs to be a weapon for us. I mentioned it last week in Tampa. In the 5 years that I've been head coach, nobody's blocking kicks in the SEC, and we've got to continue to be that opportunistic, aggressive group, whether it's fake punts, and fake goals, all that stuff. That needs to be a weapon for us. When we call that stuff and we do it, we need to be able to execute and make sure that we're not putting our guys in position for negative things.
That's a fact. That's a fact, Coach.
Yeah, and taking it to the wide receiver room, obviously, the talents. I mean, you can't say the word talent enough times for that room, right? You can't say it enough. Obviously, Nick Harbor, Donovan Murph, and you got your newcomers coming in, and of course, you brought in Nitro Tuggle, Jaden Gibson, of course, Mazio returns, DJ Black comes back to South Carolina. So many names are jumping off the page, Coach. What can Gamecock fans look forward to this year with all that talent in the room that's out there?
Yeah, really fired up about that room. Last year, whenever I did interviews, I was talking about the wide receiver depth and how much better it was going to be from 2024 because we had Nick Harbor coming back, we had Mazio Bennett coming back, and then we had signed 5 school freshmen. Well, now Nick Harbor's back, Mazio's back. Those 5 high school freshmen were a year old. Plus, we brought in Sequel Patterson, and we signed some guys from the portal. So, I thought there was a lot of competition in that room last year, which I did. I mean, it's nothing compared to what it is right now. That's great to have the depth that we have. I'm really, really eager to see, how that sorts itself out in practice from a competition standpoint of, here's going to be our top 4, 5, 6 guys. And then it's also great, too, because that's a position that's got to be able to help us in special teams. And we've got a lot of guys in that room that, can run. They have size. They have length. They're athletic. And that all are, those are key attributes that you want a special teams player to. So I think we're going to get a lot of room offensively and on special teams this year.
One thing, Coach, I've noticed this year that I felt like if I could ask the question at media day, this is the one I would have asked. That depth that you brought in on offensive line, Coach. My goodness, we were going through the list. I was like, does Coach have like 27 offensive linemen on here? Like, am I reading it wrong? And then I go to the D tackle room and I'm like, does people understand he's got double-digit depth on the D? Like, there's so much depth across the board, Coach. And I know you looked at it. I know you had to smile because that's been something that we've lacked sometimes. But now you look at the depth, but because that brings out, once again, the biggest thing with you, compete. That brings out the competition in practice. That brings out the competition on special teams. That brings all those different things to the aspect. So, Coach, what made you go out and be like, no, we're getting these numbers, we're hitting these numbers? And when you see numbers at different spots, where do you feel good at, and where do you be like, kind of wish we kind of would have went a little bit more here?
Yeah, certainly the depth of a lot of scrimmage is a positive for us. It starts up front in this conference. We needed to on the offensive line. We needed to get more depth there. We need to get better. This is what it is, and we needed to bring in more guys with Power 4 experience, and we've done that. Whether it be Carter Meeker, who's coming from the Big 12, or Hank Purvis, who's coming from the Big 10, or JP, who's coming from the ACC, on the defensive line, Colby Collins, and Jordan Thomas, they're coming from the SEC. So we're bringing some guys on the scrimmage that have Power 4 experience. I was looking back, it's funny, we started preseason camp this week. I was looking back in some notes that I had with the staff about today for 2024. And a lot of the things I was talking about in 2024 are very relevant to 2026 in regards to how I feel about that 2014 and how I'm feeling about the 2016 right now. We had more depth from a lot of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. Leadership, those were all things that I thought in 24, and they're things that I think right now. And You think about us 24, just on the defensive line, for example. We had Tonka, Boogie, TJ, DeAndre Jules, Nick Barrett, who was our best D lineman last year. Nick was like the 5th D lineman in 24. Really only played in 4 games because we were trying to register him. And then last year, we really had probably a 3-man rotation defensive tackle. We look at it this year, I think it's a realistic scenario where we could rotate 6 defensive tackles a game. And that's a weapon in a lot of ways. So I feel like there. Depth-wise, probably defensive back position. You think about it, it's 2 years in a row. We've lost 3 defensive backs early in the NFL draft over the last 2 years with Nicky Memori, then Jalen Gordon, then Brandon Cisse. Jalen and Brandon could still be here. They had another year of eligibility. They're gone, left 2 years ago, so constantly trying to play catch up. And our depth is good. You're wrong. Every position, I would say that I wish we had more. But if you just look at the defensive back position, we're talented. There's just a lot of guys that haven't played a lot of football. We're going to have a new starter at safety. Peyton Williams comes back. We feel good about him. What's another safety position going to look like? We feel good about, the top 2 or 3 guys at the corner position. Bakari and Budge have played a lot of football. Beyond that, we've got some talented guys who can play a lot of football. We're going to have to rely on true freshmen in the secondary, which we've shown we can do that. It'll be fine. I wish we had a little bit more depth because just like I was saying a minute ago with the special teams, defensive backs, wide receivers, linebackers, those a lot of your key special teams players. And we have the receiver. We don't have the defensive back. Gosh, the core special teams guys. And they all complement each other. And that's an area where I wish we had a little bit more depth. But we'll be all right.
Yes, sir.
That's good. Now, obviously, you coached last year in 2026. You guys had the highest blue chip ratio in South Carolina history when it came to recruiting. How much of a challenge is that with, balancing the locker room with the portal and having, being able to do that, being able to put a blue chip ratio like that? Because we all know the name of the game these days is an NIL, right? With a lot of these kids, not all of them, but that's a huge part of it, right? Having to make a living for their family. How hard is that, Coach? I know it's tough.
Yeah, it's a great testament to the culture in this program that we had a disappointing season. The easy thing to do, whether you're a high school senior committed to us in December of 24, December of 25, or you were a player on our team last December, the easy thing to do would be, man, they just went 4-8, didn't have a great year. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to sign somewhere else. I'm going to transfer. That didn't happen. Coaches that had opportunity to leave. We had coaches on our staff with NFL job offers that they turned down to stay here. Players stayed here and didn't in the portal. The signing class that we committed to, the whole signing class signed with us. And there's some real dudes in that class that are going to make an impact on this year's team. And then the players that we were able to bring in. So, to answer the question, the fact they're all here is a testament to the culture and what this place is about. And then for us, it's a different time in regards to the money aspect of it, the culture, the locker room, and all that. But for me, it's making sure you bring the right people into your program. Is money a factor? Yes, I understand that. But it won't be the only factor because if it's the only factor, every December, January, when the portal comes open, you're going to be on the phone with, we're going to be off, threatening to leave unless you get more money. And that's when I got to South Carolina only for money. And we went down choosing this place for a lot more than just the money aspect. Always competitive if you can, but you need to be coming here for more reasons than just that. And that's what we have in our program. And it makes it, I don't want to say easier, but manageable to navigate all the, pitfalls of college athletics nowadays because there's a financial element that play now has never been at play before.
Another thing, Coach, when it comes to recruiting, I know something that you've always valued is relationships, 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 relationships. But another factor I'm starting to see as a trend is the actual play style of the school. So, what kind of play style are they having, whether it's on offense, whether it's on defense? And this year, it looks like we used to have more of a pro style type offense, and now we've gone more, up tempo. How have you seen the players kind of react to that switch of a play style that's been here, that's transitioning to that? And how their reaction has been. How has recruits reacted to that kind of switch? Because Kendall Browns is a highly reputable name, and his resume once again speaks for itself. So how have you seen that in recruiting and also with the team and their buy-in when it comes to that? Because I remember at SC Media Day, Nick Harbour said, "Man, I'm playing free. I'm able to do this, that, and the other." And every time you bring it up, you see that smile on Lenore's face, that checker smile, like, hey, you'll just have to see for yourself. But what have you seen, Coach? As you see it day to day, what have you seen from that?
Yeah, just like guys cited, we've mixed in up-tempo elements into our offense since I've been here. I mean, yes, we've been more pro style, but we've certainly used tempo at times. And we've still got the ability to do both. I think more so than the tempo that you're playing with, but I think guys on our team talk about this offense is just the flexibility that it has, the ability to get the ball, all of our playmakers in a multitude of ways, the options on each play, the creativity that Kendall and the offensive staff bring to it. There's just a lot, has all of us excited, about what it look like. We got a lot of work to do between now and the first game, but I like the progress that we've made and the direction we're headed on offense.
Okay.
Now, Coach, this goes into former players at the University of South Carolina. Obviously, bringing those kind of guys in around the program makes a significant difference for a few different ways, right? Hey, this is how you guys should be looking at it. Hey, the future is here. Your NFL is your next step. Maybe if not, you go going pro in something else, right? But how important has it been for you to get those guys on campus and continue to get those guys on campus to be around these kids?
Yeah, huge. I mean, I want to come back with the experience we've had here. I want them to always feel welcome. And we've done a great job of that. Our guys know they're always welcome. I love talking to those guys. And this is their program. But then certainly it's great for our players to see those players come back and, be able to talk about their experience here on and off the field and what being in South Carolina did for them from a football standpoint, academic standpoint, social standpoint, the football standpoint, all that. You can accomplish it all here in Carolina when you see a guy come back has done that, whether it be in professional football or whether it be in the business world. That's a powerful message to the players on the team.
Man, I love that, Coach. And so now, as you have on your chest the swoosh, we're in Nike. We are a Nike school now. That's been a long time coming. And now that we're a Nike school and branding wise, because one thing I think a lot of people don't realize is how much Columbia has grown and continues to grow. And I want to say, I think me and FG were talking about that because the last time I came home, I was like, wait, when did this get here? Hold on, when did this get here? And so when you see that kind of growth, especially the plans that are in the works for not just Williams-Brice Stadium, but around the stadium, Coach, how have you started seeing that affecting more people coming out, more people being more bought in? Like what have you seen in the forefront of this with the future, looking bright when it comes to Nike and when the branding has happened?
Yeah, it's been awesome. First of all, kudos to Jeremiah Marty, Jeff Green, Dr. Marita, Thad Westbrook, all of our administration here at Carolina for what they've been able to get done and what we've accomplished, whether it be the stadium, whether it be Nike. There's so much going on right now, and it's a new day for Carolina athletics. And it's pretty cool to be able to look out my window here to see him across the street every day to see the progress. I was just over there. I jumped on a few guys and over there at the stadium, and it's really cool seeing what's getting done and how close they are to being completely done with everything. The Nike has been huge for so many reasons. There's a lot of excitement in Columbia right now, and outside Columbia, about South Carolina athletics and South Carolina football, and it's because of the young talent we have in the program. Surely, then a new Williams Bright Stadium, in 26, and then in 27, 28, and then being able to take the field this year wearing Nike, it's a great feeling right now in so many ways.
All right, and also, Coach, what's your favorite Nikes right now? What is your favorite kicks, Coach?
I just I'm wearing now.
Those, bro. I gotta get a pair, Coach. I gotta get a pair. I gotta get one.
Yeah, pretty good. We're in the early stages of it. I'm like a kid on Christmas morning. I just come in the office every day and I just put on all things Nike and don't take it off. And then sometimes I'll wear it home and feel like my wife and kids, and they're like, "Can you believe it? Like, Nike."
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying.
I love it. They've been very good to us. Nike has. They just actually just dropped off some shoes for me. I had lunch with our Nike great people from Nike today. I had lunch with them, and they came bearing some gifts. They brought me some new, kind of bonnet, I call them Nike shoes. So I don't know if I have a favorite. I don't say Little Monk, whatever's on my feet are my favorite at the time.
I ain't mad at it, Coach. I ain't mad at it.
Coach, in this day and age, obviously this week alone, we've seen a lot of logos added to the jersey for sponsorships. Is there a certain logo you would like to see at the University of South Carolina?
No, probably whenever you have to acquire the audio in this show. No, it's a different time. I was reading about some of that with some of the different schools, but there's so many great people that are great supporters of South Carolina football and South Carolina athletics. And if there's somebody worthy of having their patch on jersey, then there's people above me that make those decisions. I'm just going to have the SEC logo and the Nike logo on my jersey. That's important to me right now.
I feel you, Coach. Now, like I told you, Coach, I got some questions for you.
All right.
The first question I have for you, Coach, these three, rank them from first to third. Bernie's, Lizard Sticket, and Rushes.
See, I can't do that because whoever I'm 2 and 3 is going to be mad. And kind of going back to your question about being the head coach at Flagship University and all that, like you got to play it like right down the middle, and all that. All the Columbia institutions, all are great, and I've been to all three. But to say that you rank them 1, 2, 3, that's the hardest. Picking a favorite child.
That's fair. That's fair.
The biggest thing he said he's been all the three. That's what counts. That's what counts.
That is true. I will agree with that.
All three. That's what counts.
No doubt.
I do agree with that. Now, Coach, this is the real question. So we talked to Darius Gray about this, and it did get everyone in an uproar. Is spaghetti a side dish or a main dish?
It's a main dish.
Are you sure, Coach?
1,000,000% sure. I've never even heard of such a thing being a side dish.
Coach, people eat spaghetti on the side with fish.
Who?
And
no.
In Memphis, they've done it. And I mean, it's a side dish, Coach. I've come to know spaghetti as a side dish now, Coach. And I mean, I'm telling you, Coach, it's a side, man. It's a side dish.
It's a main.
I don't know where you're hanging out. Never heard such a thing. So if my wife, I like spaghetti, and if I come home and somebody's like, "Hey, what do you want for dinner?" Like myself and my kids have never said, "Well, let's get whatever," and then some spaghetti on the side. Like, spaghetti's the main dish, and then whatever else comes with it, some bread, whatever else.
Hey, Coach,
that's a wrap. That ends it. That's a wrap, Q. That's a wrap. It's a main dish. From a family of Italians, that's a main dish, my friend.
Thank you,
Coach. Thank you, Coach. That settles that.
When I was at a restaurant on Sunday night. I ordered spaghetti. Like it was on the main course. It wasn't at the bottom with all the accompaniments or side.
I'm telling you, Coach, I've had it on the side. It's a game changer. Fish with a side of spaghetti.
Well, I got
some
research
wild
with
things.
you're hanging out because I've been.
I can, man. Coach, the creative media department is incredible at South Carolina. Justin King and his staff continue to just do amazing things. Really talk about how that helps the program and what they do in the behind the scenes for what goes on, man.
Yeah. Before we move on, what did Darius say? Did he say it was a side dish?
Oh, Darius was shocked. Darius was like, I didn't know you could have it on the side. Like literally, he legit because I explained it. When I explained it to him, he was just like, I see it, but I don't see why we would do it. I don't see why you would. He's like, no, you're supposed to have fish with something else, fish and fries or fish and something else, and spaghetti is by itself with salad and whatever. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I've had it like that, but
he said it's a main.
He said it's a main, though. He said it's a main. So
Darius, and I'm glad to know that he's got some sense. No, you're right. Justin King, creative media. You talk about weapons and assets for us. That's a weapon. That's an asset. Recruiting, fan engagement. They're brilliant at what they do. His whole team, and I'm always eager to see what they have planned next and what his ideas are for stuff.
Hey, I'll never forget, Coach, when we had you do the Full House video, and we back when I was with the dealership, we provided that Camaro that you were sitting on top of to start the video out.
Yeah.
Good times, man.
Good times.
Good times.
Yeah, Coach. So now, as we're winding down, but the one biggest thing, what do you want to tell Gamecock Nation, man, that now that we're winding down from this and you're starting out preseason camp, here in a few days?
Yeah, just how excited we are that, nobody has higher expectations for this program than myself and the people in this program. Certainly realize that we fell woefully short of our expectations last season, and that is 100% ultimately, me. But we ain't that far off either, and there's a lot of guys came back, like I was referring to a few minutes ago, because of last season, and they're not going out like that. And been a lot of work that we put in since January, and can't wait to get out to Williams-Brice, get back in front of our fans, the best fans in all of the world, on September 5th, and get this thing rolling. Proud of our players, the business-like approach they've approached things with since they came back in January to start the spring semester, and that's carried over to the summer. And the next step is to start playing games, and we're getting closer.
Good deal. Good deal.
Great. Well, Coach, like I said, we appreciate you joining us today on the Welcome Home podcast. Fans were waiting on this one for a while. We've been waiting on this one for a while. So again, Coach, we do appreciate you joining us.
No, you man. Love y'all and all you do. Appreciate your work ethic and much respect. Happy to join you today.
Yes,
thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach. Well, guys, appreciate y'all tuning in to the Welcome Home podcast on YouTube, Facebook, X Live. Appreciate y'all tuning in to the Welcome Home podcast, where you can catch every replay of the Welcome Home podcast on Apple and Spotify. The official voice of the South Carolina Gamecocks on the Believe Network. Guys, we'll see you next time.
Peace.